Hey, welcome as we talk today with Alan Nochumson about building wealth in real estate. Good morning, everybody. I am Maria Quattrone, and I'm excited to talk with you today about how to build wealth by utilizing real estate as a path to loads of extra free time and long-term wealth building. So, Alan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Maria. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Welcome to our second edition of Saturdays Building Wealth in Real Estate. This week is our topic. And so Alan has been a friend of mine for just about almost 20 years, believe it or not. And we started in the real estate industry. We're both, only, I guess, what were we then? 15 years old? No, I'm just kidding. We were both young and aggressive and still working our butts off. Have you slowed down, Alan? Or are you working harder
No,
than ever?
I'm working harder than ever. Yeah, as you know, I'm an attorney in Center City, Philadelphia, with a practice primarily focused on real estate in Philly. And even though interest rates have gone up and construction costs have gone up, where people are still building, people are still investing, so we're busy.
Absolutely. And I think the last time we spoke a few weeks ago, you told me that you're busier than you've been ever, and it's like nonstop, right?
It is. It is. I mean, I think we have a little bit of a niche. We do this and we do this well, and we do it comprehensively. So we represent individuals from anything from acquisitions to sales and everything in between. With again, our focus is in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia has a lot of governmental rules and regulations, which trip people up a lot. So a lot of times, my clients are ones who are having issues with their tenants or with the city government. Sometimes I have clients who think two steps ahead. They're like, hey, I want to buy a piece of real estate as an investment. What should I know? What should I do?
So let's
So
talk
we
about
hear.
that. Let's talk about if
Mhm.
you are just starting out. We'll start with that. What's the first thing that somebody should do, obviously, outside of finding a great real estate broker and a great real estate attorney? What should they do to be set up for success from the beginning?
So it's kind of funny you mentioned that. I just introduced you to a client of mine who's in that same position. And I was talking to him yesterday, telling him I was going to be on your show. You got to have your team of advisors in place. So you have to have a real estate attorney. You have to have a real estate broker, probably someone who knows title insurance, because a lot of times these people who are buying investments are dealing with properties probably $100,000 or less as their first time investment. A lot of times those properties have a lot of hair on them, so to speak. There may be title related issues. So you need to have a title insurance agent that knows what they're doing and can maneuver a deal forward. Probably you would need maybe a banker or a mortgage broker, an insurance broker, an accountant. So I always say get your team of advisors in place. And property manager, which you probably would do as well, but a good handy person who's going to help, as you purchase the properties. But get your team of advisors and professionals in place is the first recommendation I would make from a practical standpoint. Like I'm a lawyer, but I'm also one to try to make my clients successful in their endeavors. So just don't jump in and say, I'm going to buy a piece of property and not have anyone to help you along the way.
That's a lot of people involved to
It
get
is. It
started.
is. Well, that's right. There are a lot of mouths to feed. Luckily, some of them, it's just part of the game, and some of them are voluntary. So, obviously, you should get title insurance, but if it's a cash transaction, there's no requirement to get one. But if you're borrowing money, your lender's going to require you to get title insurance.
Well, that is
If
something for sure that I've never represented a client who did not get title insurance.
I've had one or two
We've
situations
had
where
people.
people, yeah,
We've
and
had
it's
people
great.
do it who came to us
Exactly.
later.
Yeah, and people will sometimes cheap out, and this doesn't happen often, where they won't get the actual title insurance and pay that one-time premium. They'll get a title search, and then someone missed something. Again, I find it as penny wise, pound foolish, a lot of these things. And even I'm not part of the process many times. And what happens is it's years later, something wasn't done right. And we can talk about some of those things, but they didn't, they bought a triplex, or at least they thought it was a triplex, but it's an RSA 5 property. And all of a sudden, L&I, licenses and inspections, the city's regulatory agency for properties, comes knocking on their door and says, hey, listen, you have a triplex, but it's not zoned as a triplex. And you're going to need to get what's called a variance. And we're going to put a violation against the property, and we're going to fine you $300 a day until you fix it. Well, if they would have hired me from day one, I would have probably went through you would have introduced me. I would have looked at the agreement of sale, which is a basic document, but I would have also looked at some of the things that they don't know. So a lot of times people don't know what they don't know. And one of those things is zoning in Philadelphia. So anytime you're purchasing a property, you can't take it at face value that it's being used legally. So I would review it on the city's records to confirm whatever the zoning classification is, has, the property allows for it, in this instance, multifamily use, and to see if a zoning permit and a building permit and a certificate of occupancy has been obtained. And if it's not, that's something that's a red flag I would talk to my client again about. Some clients purchase properties regardless, but at least they have the information they need.
Yeah, sometimes they're purchasing the cash flow, right? They're looking to place their money to purchase cash flow, and they don't care that it's not zoned properly. That's fine. That's up to each individual. They
Yeah,
like
I joke around, but I do say everyone's big boys and big girls. But you want to at least it's like going to a doctor. You just want the information you need. You want to be informed before you make a decision. And that's my job. My job is to make people informed, making sure that, after they purchase the property, if they wish to be a legal landlord, whether it's a single family or multifamily. That's another thing I see people get tripped up on. In Philadelphia, you have to get what most people know as rental licenses. The legal terminology is housing inspection license. So every year, I think it's $50 per unit, you have to get a license from the city of Philadelphia to be able to rent residential real estate. And what happens is most people either don't know or don't care. They get a situation where a tenant doesn't pay or overstayed their welcome, and they want to evict that person. Well, in the Philadelphia Municipal Court, a judge is not going to grant a judgment for money or a judgment for possession if you don't have an active housing inspection license during the time period in which there was an alleged breach. So that's where I also see a lot of people get tripped up, is that they don't know the rules and regulations in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's for sure. And getting those rental licenses, and when you're transferring the property over, making sure that you're transferring the licenses as well. I see it all the time. I mean, we have many properties. Right now, we have one under contract, of duplex, small little property in South Philly. And we're waiting for the rental licenses for the seller to get it so we can do the transfer to the new buyer. And
Yeah,
those things cause delays in settlement. So we actually knew from the very beginning they didn't have it. They didn't know, because here's what's crazy. They had a property management company, and the property management company didn't renew the license, right? So
yeah,
they come to us to sell it, and we look, and because you can see, as you know, we can see if there's rental licenses on it or not, and there's no rental licenses on it. So the value of that property is not the value of a duplex anymore. It's valued as a single family, because there's no rental licenses unless you go and back and go and get the rental licenses. So it really is critical that when you are investing in real estate, that you are working with professional organizations that do this full time, that have an office that you actually can go to and visit, like yours and like mine. You see a lot of these small companies where you can't find anybody because there's no office, right? People work from home now, and you're not getting the best representation. Then what do they say, that there's a Japanese proverb about cheap is, what is it?
Well, I think it's the penny wise, pound foolish,
Same thing. Penny
terminology.
wise, pound foolish.
Yeah. And in your situation, again, to go back at this, and I want to really hammer this. Your situation, someone had a duplex or is using it as a duplex. It sounds like it has a single family zoning classification, and there's a gap in the rental license. If that gap is for more than 3 years, then the property reverts back to its original zoning of RSA 5. So you may get what's
Luckily, this
called,
was only 1 year, so.
yeah. So, but I want to make that point because you may get what's called a property certificate from LNI. LNI doesn't, they don't issue use and occupancy certificates. All they issue are property certificates. You pay like $15 to the city. They literally spit out what's of public record. They don't go in like this, the townships and the suburbs where they have someone physically go there, check the outside, maybe make you correct your sidewalk or something like that. They charge you the city of Philadelphia charges you $115. And in your situation, it would have said, oh, this is a duplex, a 2-family dwelling as a matter of public record. And if you would have purchased it without your knowledge base, or your client would have, they would have tried to get a rental license if the use was discontinued of public record for more than 3 years, hypothetically. Like there's one rental licenses, and all of a sudden they try to get a rental license for 2 units. LNI would have said, sorry, this is an RSA, either an RSA 3 or RSA 5 property. Don't know what the zoning classification is. You're going to have to hire someone like me to handle a zoning variance case where there's no guarantee you're going to be able to legalize that use. So I think what happens is I have a lot of realtors who don't know what they don't know. There's a difference between a consumer realtor and an investor realtor. You do both, but a lot of people just have a cousin who's like, oh, I'm looking to buy and invest in real estate. Oh, I can handle that. But they don't know what they don't know, and they're not helping you along the situation. So I've had many occasions where I'm doing zoning variances because they didn't know what to look for. So I think it's very important. Zoning is very important in Philadelphia, knowing that their rental licenses are active, in Philadelphia is important because of how the property is going to be used after closing. And going back to the rental licenses too, in your situation, you were smart enough to ask the seller to get the rental license. But like I've seen situations where someone hasn't, and then the other trap that they fall into is there is a violation against the property, right? If there's a violation against the property, you're an owner who, if they were, your client, if they weren't represented by you, they would have tried to get a rental license, and the LNI would have said, sorry, we can't give you a rental license because there's a violation against this property. So now the new owner of the property is in a really bad spot, because if they don't have a rental license, technically, if their tenant doesn't pay or overstay their welcome, they have no recourse to evict them. So that's another thing that I see a lot of clients not realize is maybe maybe the seller got a rental license, but they got it before they had a violation against the property. The violation is not cleared up. Post-closing, the new owner tries to get a rental license and they can't. And now they're in potentially a bad situation.
So all these things, there's always something.
That's why I'm very busy.
That's why you're very busy. But the thing is, so, you talk about, we need a real estate broker, an attorney, an accountant. You need somebody to property management, maybe a contractor to fix things up. You need all these people. At the end of it, is there any money left?
Well, you would know more so than me.
Well, no, I mean, let's talk about it. You're going to buy a rental property, and you have all these people that you have to pay. You actually really do have to pay all these people. At some point, you're going to need them, right? Whether it's upfront and you're preparing, you have to if you're going to do it properly, you're not going to put the property in your name. You're going to put it into an LLC, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to file LLC paperwork. Mm-hmm. Is there a partnership agreement? Like all of these things need to be done 100% unless then you'll be exposed. So I've had this conversation with some investors lately. Okay. When they feel like every time they turn around, they're paying for something else. The property has to be maintained. So and we know that through, and I'm kind of being like a little bit like, I guess, poking the bear, so to speak, but you know that over time you can build wealth through real estate, but it's not a short-term game. It's not a short-term thing unless you're flipping, and then that's a whole nother subject for
Mhm.
another day, right? Just flipping real estate. But for long-term investment, I know over time it's worth it, but people have
Yes.
to get over the fact that there is expense in it, right? It's not just passive income because it's your time that's involved as well. Unless you just put money into a fund and then you get a return. But this is, and I hate when people say you're this is passive income, because I own property and there's nothing passive
No,
about
I agree. So from my experience and the experience of my clients, there's two ways to earn wealth through investing in real estate. It's the income you're generating on a day-to-day basis. And I do see, I do, I see a lot of clients own real estate in neighborhoods you would think twice about living in, but they're getting $2,000 or more in some of these neighborhoods. And you compare it to their mortgage payments, and which would include principal, interest, insurance, and real estate taxes, paying a property manager to find someone every single year or so, hiring someone like me just in case if they're having issues with L&I or their tenant, and then hiring an accountant on a yearly basis to keep their books in order. There is money there on a yearly basis. It may not be a home run every single time, but it's
no
money that over time and compounded,
over time.
depending.
That's what I want to
Yes.
get across, because guess what? Your tenant, that tenant may decide not to pay for 6 months.
No, and that's right. And so
And I
you
and I
could,
think people always need to be prepared for that, right? There's two different things. One, if you're investing in real estate and you want to make another business, because it is another business. But and this is my belief, and I want your opinion on this, Alan. I hear all the time people say to me, well, if I can't get my number on my house, I'm going to rent it out. And for the most of the time, for most folks, I think it's a bad, bad idea. Because if you can't cover those mortgage payments for renting it out, if that tenant doesn't pay, you have big problems.
that's
Plus,
right.
if you don't hire somebody to handle it, you've never managed a property before. It's not like living in a property, right? Just because you own a property, renting it out is not the same thing as just living in the property. I think I see a lot of people make mistakes with this. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so there are two, again, the people that I particularly represent are ones who are doing this to earn, it's their side hustle, and hopefully their main hustle one day is to, own real estate, to rent it out to individuals. I think there's money to be made, again, on a daily basis, and then you'll see the real estate appreciate over time. Like I'll work on deals where, we're buying a piece of my client's buying a piece of real estate, and we find someone bought that property 10 years ago for $50,000 and selling it for a few $100,000. So that's where you can
Indeed.
make money. The individual you just mentioned is someone who's in a tough spot. And a lot of people I think are going to be in that tough spot where maybe the market has dipped a little bit on them or is stagnant, and then maybe they purchased at the top of the market, so they have to pay transfer taxes, which in Pennsylvania is 1% for the state, and in Philadelphia it's essentially 3.3% of the sales price, which is evenly split by the parties, but still that's a number. Your commission, that's a number. So those numbers sometimes make it such that there may be no money in the deal, where they either walk away, best case scenario, with whatever equity they had, and hopefully, or worst case scenario, they may have to bring some dollars to the table. Now, under those circumstances, when people have to bring dollars to the table, they may be hesitant to do that, and they may try to rent it out. And like you said, this business is not for everyone. it's really hard to evict tenants in Philadelphia. The pandemic made it a lot harder, like the act of the pandemic, where they put a lot more rules and regulations and protections for tenants, which, again, there are bad landlords like there are bad tenants. But it makes it really, really difficult for a landlord to get a property back quickly. You're talking 6 months, best case scenario, and a lot of times worse, and especially if they don't have their act together. So yeah, it could be devastating for someone who has a mortgage of a couple, like $2,000, $3,000 a month, and they can't get the property for 6 months to a year. They're going to need a big cash reserves to make sure that they're not going to that property is not going to get foreclosed upon. So it's a tough situation.
It is. And a lot of times they say it's cheaper to do this now and bring some money to the table than it will be later, because you don't know what you're getting, especially depending upon where the property is located, right? So meaning that certain areas you get certain types of tenants, in certain areas you get different types of tenants.
I honestly, I think people who are bad tenants, it grows across all areas of the city and all income levels. There are some people, the reason why they have a lot of money is because they don't pay anyone. They show off, or they don't really have that money. So I find that some people who are living on Rittenhouse Square, they pay their bills less than someone who earns $50,000 a year, family of 4 in whatever neighborhood you would think of. It's sad.
That's bad character.
It is bad character, but like I said, I don't think it matters in terms of income level or where people live. That's the problem. You don't know, right? And there's limitations even about checking people's background and credit. There were new laws that were instituted a few years ago. So a lot of times these landlords are flying blind when they're looking at a prospective tenant.
Well, Section 8 is definitely viable. There's a lot of people looking for properties, and I mean tenants looking for Section 8 properties, and they made it a lot easier to get approved to be a Section 8 landlord. So that is an option for people, because that is guaranteed rent from the government. There's also other programs like that investors can use, like Social Security, SSI. There's all kinds of different avenues to pursue. But I think the most important thing is that you have a great team around you, and that is walk through thousands of transactions.
That's right. You have the institutional knowledge that we have, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. I try not to be negative. I try to be realistic. And try to have my clients be as practical as possible. There's always the worst case scenario. It doesn't happen very often. But if I don't tell my clients of all the pitfalls and all the potential, like, I think I'm doing a disservice. But yeah, this is what I would say. Hire individuals, not just within our practice areas or areas of what we do, but exactly what you're looking for. Again, there's an investor attorney. There's a consumer attorney. There's an attorney who handles real estate as their focus, like me. And there's an attorney who handles everything. And one of the practice areas is real estate. You want people who specialize in these areas. Even the accountant, I think you need an accountant that knows how to handle real estate investors, developers, contractors, because they know the provisions of the tax code, which can help their clients save money, or more importantly, save paying taxes. But if you get a generalist, that's not going to work out. Same thing with the insurance broker. I've had so many situations where people hire Jake from State Farm, literally, but they're paying for insurance that for protections they don't need. And sadly, they're not paying for protections that they do need. So you want to pay the right amount for insurance. You want to maximize the protections you have. So that's really the number one thing. Hire capable people.
So let's switch gears for a minute. Since most of your business is on the zoning side and contract oversight,
Mhm.
and where do you see more investors developing in what neighborhoods in Philadelphia?
So, so we do work in Center City, Philadelphia, but most of our work is outside, on the fringes. So usually our clients are the first line of developers who are investing in properties. So when Fishtown got hot, then we did East Kensington. Then we went to Kensington. Then we went to Norris Square. Like we were the ones who did the first projects in all of these neighborhoods. So what's next? And we did Port Richmond, which I love as a neighborhood. I think it's a great neighborhood to invest in even now. Um, a lot of our clients are investing up north, Broad. I would say North Central, Broad, like probably like the 3,000 block of whatever north you're thinking of. Um, Trying to think where else a lot of people doing some more work in the Northeast. We're seeing some like bigger projects in the Northeast.
Northeast, as in like
Philadelphia, Northeast
Mayfair,
Philadelphia.
or like Greater Northeast and like Academy?
Both. We've done a few projects recently in Bridesburg. One successful, one to be determined.
Large
So
scale multifamily or single or townhomes?
I'm trying to think the one in Bridesburg. We just got approved this week. What did we do? Oh, we did a, a CMX. I feel like maybe it was just an RSA 5 property. We got 3 units. Nothing, nothing like, wow, this is the most amazing project ever. But those add up, right? Singles add up. So I think it was a 3 unit. I have another one that's an 8 unit, mid block, which is going to be a little bit tough. People are like debating whether to do them as condos or as rentals. And it's tougher in this environment to do condos, but people are still trying as an option.
I would
But
definitely look at condos over rentals.
yeah, well, I think it's always good to condo your multifamily properties and to
100%.
again be sophisticated about it. When you get a loan, make sure your loan product allows you to sell units. Maybe you rent them out for the time being, but it gives you the opportunity to basically piecemeal sales, right? So if you have like a 3 unit condo and you're looking to sell it over time, like it may be helpful to like lower your mortgage, sell 1 unit now, sell another unit 5 years from now, and hold one as an investment. Who knows? So, but that gives you the opportunity to do it. So again, those are the things that we talk to about our clients. We try to think 2 steps ahead. This is another saying I like. I like to play chess, not checkers, right?
Absolutely.
Like, so, and that's the thing. And that's the thing you get from whether it's me, you, or anyone who does this for, a true living is we have a little, we have a little bit more knowledge base of the transaction from 4 steps from now, which maybe another professional doesn't. So we're guiding them and saying, hey, we know what's going to happen 5 years from now. Like we want you to be equally successful, not just successful today, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And that's what we offer.
Yep. Future pacing, what's going to happen
That's
down the
right.
line, and being 100% transparent about what could happen. Best case, worst case scenario, right? Good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah. But I think I think it's still a great renters market. Again, it's actually tough because it's tough for people to find affordable housing in Philadelphia. So I think the rents are still high. Now, on the flip side, there's a lot of units entering the market in a lot of these transitioning neighborhoods, and we'll see what happens. Like, how are you going to differentiate yourself? Again, a lot of the apartment buildings, they all have studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. What else are you offering? That's going to help choose. Why would I choose your apartment building from someone else's? What's the amenities?
Right.
What are the deals?
Or you're just a low cost. So it's your choice. That's a developer's choice. Either be the lowest cost or have the most amenities, or great amenities for people, I think is a good
Yeah,
deal.
but there are some people who don't even want the apartment buildings. They want one seats, two seats, and three seats like apartment units buildings. So um,
I'm curious, Alan,
that's
what's your take on the 6,000 plus units coming in the Delaware Ave Northern Liberties corridor?
I'm excited for it because I don't live far from that, and I think that East of Broad on Spring Garden's gonna look completely different, and I'm hoping that those landlords are successful, and that encourages a different vibe. I can also see where you see with the office building environment where some people lose their shirts, right? So the people developed a great product. There's nothing against what they did. Their numbers just didn't work when they bought the property and constructed it. And maybe they lose the property to the bank, and then someone else takes over and now has a beautiful product. So I definitely think that part of Philadelphia is going to completely change, and I think it's also a great, you know, avenue for people to live. Like you're just, again, you're talking about Delaware Avenue. Then you could go hop right on 95, or maybe the Schuylkill. So I think that part of Philadelphia is going to definitely thrive over the next few years.
Yeah, there's so many new
It's a lot.
buildings popping up.
It's a
A
lot.
lot. I think it's great, but I have concerns over them. Like, it's not that's my concern. My concern is always about the bigger picture, right? You don't want empty buildings. You don't want to have people to have to send their buildings back to the bank. I
Oh,
think
that's right.
there's so much coming at the same time. I mean, I'm over there all the time because you know me, I'm out and about uh, listing properties and going all around. So I looked around the other day and I'm like, now they're really, they're coming to getting closer to being finished, some of the buildings. So, there was first just podiums there, right? And now there's 6, 7, 8, 9 stories. And I mean, it's changing the whole, picture of the area. It doesn't even look like it's nothing like it did.
Yeah, again, like I said, I don't want anyone to lose their shirts, but it looks like they're creating a great product environment, just like Market East, right? Forget about Preet, but what they created around Market East is going to change Philadelphia for generations. Maybe those developers survive, maybe they don't, but the product's going to remain there. And yeah, maybe the rents are not going to be what they thought, but the new developer or the new owner is going to create a market condition for themselves. They're going to
Right.
buy the property based on that market condition. Yeah,
That affects all, there's a trickle down effect, right, to all that, to all real
oh
estate.
no,
We
there
don't
is there.
we don't live in a vacuum.
No, they don't. We don't. Contractors don't get paid, right? If the developer can, has no tenants ultimately. Banks tighten up their lending because they got burnt too many times. Interest rates would probably go even higher than they are because of that. So there's a trickle down effect.
But
But
we can
yeah,
we
that's
can
why you
hope
have to, what?
we can hope for the best.
Yeah, but that's why, in this environment over the last few years, and going forward, you're going to see people leave the real estate market because for the past 10 years, if you just showed up, you made money, whether you're good or not. I hope those individuals who showed up learned something, made it their profession to be good at it. I think those people will remain. People who are actually in the profession. You were in the profession in 2008 where the market tanked. You stayed. Some people just go from one gig to the next.
Are
I
you
think,
aware that the brokers, agents who have been in the business since 2008 or before is only 7% of
say that
us?
one more time.
So if a broker agent who's been in the business before 2008, there's only 7% of the industry.
Wow. Well, I mean, 15 years. Hopefully some of those people made enough
That's not
money and
that,
they're
that's
like,
a small amount of people,
that is a small amount. That's a
right?
ridiculously small amount. But
That's a ridiculously
again,
small amount.
But again, some people, well, let me just say this. A lot of my clientele are people who were realtors who then became developers and
Mhm.
investors. So I'm sure you've seen that, and you've partaken in that, maybe not to the degree some other clients
No, I'm
have.
not I don't want to be a developer.
That's right. But there are
I'm going to
people,
stay in my lane, but no, hey, whatever works for you.
that's right. But some people decide, hey, you know what? Being in the profession like me and you, we're like single hitters. We help and advise and provide services. And I'm okay with that. But there are some people who are like, oh my God, I can make what these people are making. Like on some deals, that one deal, because I only need to do one deal rather than 10 deals. And, but they don't understand there's a risk associated with that. And everyone has different skill sets. If I'm a good lawyer, doesn't mean I'm a good developer or investor, right? There may be things I may be meticulous to the point where it's too much for me. But for being a lawyer, that's good to be meticulous because I basically am telling the client exactly what they need to know and then let them make the decision. I'm a risk adverse person, you know, but I think
I'm
the
a
reason why
I'm
you have,
a I'm a slow
well,
and steady wins the race person.
that's right.
Consistency day in, day out, doing the same things over and over again and being
Yeah.
consistent in, the wins on that. And I'm okay with that too. I'm going to
Yeah.
do some other things though. I'm all about that's why I'm doing these videos every day. I don't know if you know I've been doing a video every day since June 18th and I go live because I want to educate the real estate community and contribute, in contribution to buyers, sellers, and real estate agents, so we can help elevate our industry.
No, I think it's great. I love newbies, like in people who are just entering the industry and investing in real estate. I like to show them, the process, and it's really important to trust the process. As I'm wearing my 76ers hoodie.
So I want to ask you one last question in regards to that. 76th place, pro or con?
76 what?
The new development, the 76er
Oh.
Stadium. Are you for it or against it?
I'm always for development, but I think this is an opportunity for Philadelphia to be special. I think this is an opportunity for Philadelphia to get federal and state and local funds and collaborate with obviously a private organization that's very interested in developing in Philadelphia. It's more than just an arena, but I don't know if we have the infrastructure right now to have a stadium in Center City, Philadelphia. But I always think big. So why don't we look together as a community to get those private funds and those public funds, and we can actually completely remake Philadelphia. So I don't know if it's going to be like where it is or maybe closer to the water at Penn's Landing, but I think there is an opportunity to make it beautiful and
I'm
generational.
I'm super excited about the work that David Adelman and his team are doing. I do
Yeah.
love the idea of the stadium being more intimate. It'll bring more concerts. There'll be a retail component of it. The renderings I saw of the building I thought were beautiful, and I'm okay personally with where it is right now. If it goes where they want to have it right now on Market Street, and if it goes somewhere else, is downtown. You know that 50% of 76er ticket holders live in Center City.
Yeah, well, my office is 2 blocks away from it. So I'm going to
So
be selfish and say yes to Center City. I think they're going to need to figure out the parking and the traffic situation. Honestly, in my professional opinion, it should be at Penn's Landing. They're already planning to cap off 95. I think it would create
so right there.
a beautiful waterfront. My son Matthew just started this year at University of Pittsburgh, and they did a great job with the stadiums near the water, and they have a lot of action down there.
I
And
would
I
be
feel like,
happy with that too.
yeah,
I have a aversion to traveling down to the stadiums. I to getting out of there is a constant nightmare.
But that's the problem. Then you're adding that nightmare to Center City where the streets are not that wide.
Well,
Maybe
the thing that you have there is all of the different transportation hubs, right? You have the Market Street line, you have the Broad Street line, you have, and they're coming from all directions, which you don't have down there. You have one way to get in and one way to get out, basically.
no, I
Anyway,
agree.
I'll be selfish and I'll be on foot. So
Me too. I'm 2 blocks away. Like I said, it would be awesome for me.
sometimes we're allowed to be selfish. We're
That's
allowed to
right.
like have our own opinion and be selfish.
That's right.
Sometimes a little bit,
That's right.
right? I mean,
Either way, moving the
I'm
stadium
excited.
to a more center part of Philadelphia would be a great experience for everyone.
Absolutely. Well, Alan, I thank you today for giving us your time this morning. With some great insights from you, and we will have you back again to talk about more investing in real estate, and you can bring us some cool examples of some things that you recently worked on with some first time buyers. So maybe we could talk about that the next time. But until then, have a fantastic weekend, and blessed and grateful to have you in my life.
All right, great. Thank you, Maria, and go Birds.
Go Eagles, go Phillies. Let's go.
That's right. All right.
Have a
I'll
great
see you.
weekend.
Bye bye.